It's it's interesting about sort of planning and architecting the knowledge graph, which is, Alex, you've spent a better part of the past, I don't know, 6 years, 7 years doing.
8.
8, yeah. But I mean, but it's like one of the things is you almost think like each node is like an intersection. You can't have too many roads coming in of into a single intersection. Otherwise, it's a mess. You typically don't want four. Occasionally, you have a 5. Every city has their like 5 points, right? Occasionally, it's always kind of a pain. You get in there and it's like the light situation and all the crosswalks.
And you try to avoid those intersections because there's such a headache.
Right. It's like, oh, it's the only way we can get to the zoo is we got to go through that 5 points thing in Lincoln Park. You actually know where they are. They're, that times just like cool places, but it's like it's not efficient, right?
Because you got emotional scars from it,
right? I don't. But so Alex, like, with that analogy in mind, I mean, when you kind of think of heuristics, you're like, okay, when do your spider senses start tingling? When you get too many prerequisites, is like you don't. It's like 2 to 3. 1 is great. 1 to 2 is great. 3 is okay. 4. Like, what point do you go? We just can't feed too much into one. That's causing a type of a cognitive congestion.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what would you say?
Yeah, so I think in terms of direct prerequisites, I usually say like 3 or 4 is probably. I start getting feeling uncomfortable when it's anything more than that. But we have direct prerequisites, which are so in the knowledge graph. They're sort of like it's like one edge connecting the topic to its prerequisites. But we've also got this other thing called, as I mentioned before, key prerequisites. Like, and each knowledge point within the topic, each topic is broken up into 3 or 4 knowledge points, and each of those knowledge points has its own set of prerequisites, which are key prerequisites. Now, some of those key prerequisites might also be direct prerequisites, as in they would have studied it not that long ago, but some of them can be actually sort of quite sort of like detached from it. Like sort of like it might be sort of like 3 or 4 jumps in the knowledge graph, maybe even more. So you're bringing in knowledge that students studied like at some point in the past, and when those start stacking up. I think it's when my spider senses really start tingling. Like every single knowledge point needs like 3 or 4 key prerequisites. It's like, this is feeling like cognitive overload problem.
Right, because the direct prerequisites are kind of like for the topic as a whole, but the key prerequisites are for each particular knowledge point, and that's really the pressure point. As the student moves through, right? It's one knowledge point at a time. So you want to measure how much cognitive pressure on each knowledge point. What's interesting is that you said 3 to 4 prerequisites. I mean, when you look at working memory literature, somebody can hold about 4 chunks of information in working memory. That's about your capacity. So it's just kind of interesting.
Coincidental, correlative, or what determinative. It's interesting. So I mean, one thing we is this knowledge points are something more we talk about internally. I don't know how much we talk about this publicly, but every topic is divided into typically 3 to 4 knowledge points. In extreme cases, you have 2 or 5, but typically it's 3 is the ideal, and sometimes 4. And what that means is the student progresses through a topic in does the most basic vanilla version of that topic. Just get some wins, just get a basic concept down, and then the next knowledge, the second knowledge point might add a little bit of a twist. Okay, now we're doing negative numbers or odd exponents or whatever, something that, and like, okay, they do it. And then the next one is like another twist. Okay, now we're using fractions or radicals or exponentials or something about it that makes it even maybe a little more nuanced or tricky. And the fourth one might even pull them all together. So it's sort of like this. If you were teaching a student to do something like I'm solving linear equations or I'm taking a derivative, you start with the most basic and you progress. And once they do not go to knowledge point 2 until they can at least do 2 problems correct in a span of 5 in the current knowledge point. So then okay, you got a couple. Okay, good. All right, that's good. You did that. You took a derivative. Okay, 3x squared. Okay, that's 6x is derivative of that. Okay, now let's try it. What if it's 2x to the negative 5th? And then I go, negative. Well, negative 5 times 10, and then whatever. And then and then so you kind of build confidence, and you do that. So anyway, so for our viewers, listeners, whatever, it's knowledge points is just a way of separating and creating a step, a sort of a ladder within a single topic. And individual knowledge points can have specific key prerequisites. So if you were like, say, okay, the third topic introduces, radicals somehow into this situation, it's like some prerequisite might be sort of like algebraic operations with radicals or something, right? So something like that. Yeah. But it's interesting. I mean, there's probably a lot we can talk about, maybe postpone it for some later shows about, your methodology and what you've learned and all the heuristics you've developed for like, how do I create a knowledge graph that's effective?
Yeah, and this is not just based on your gut. I mean, part of it is based on your experience as an educator, but a part of it is also just looking at cold hard numbers, analytics on this thing. It's like you're like the city planner with all the traffic routes and everything. But the nice thing is if there's a 5-way intersection that's just not working out too well, you can just like pick up the roads, like rearrange it.
That's a great analogy. You can imagine you're like the head, city planner, right? And you have some young guns come in and they're planning. You got some new part of the city that's going to put some roads, and you initially come in and you're like, that's not going to work. They're like, what do you mean? You're like, okay, look, you got that's an exit from a highway, and then we got a subdivision, and then they're going to be like, this. So you would say, look, so you would instinctually know, having spent years doing this, where there are likely going to be problems. But then at the end of the day, you do your best, and then we start getting data in, and it's like students are struggling with this topic. We have a pass rate that's not at our benchmark of 94, 95%. It's 75% or something. Like, what's going on there? And then you go, and Justin had built a bunch of analytics, a bunch of tools that you can use to sort of inspect and go, okay, where are students struggling? You're struggling at knowledge point 3. They're fine up to knowledge point 2 and knowledge point 3. And so then it's like, what's the problem? Like, what is the problem? And typically it's one of two things. We're missing a knowledge point. Sometimes it's like further elaborating on something, including a graph or more detailed description or something. But a lot of times it's inserting another knowledge graph, because it's like having steps, except you're missing a step and people have to two steps up and it's just too much. Or sometimes it's splitting it into two topics, right? I mean, I don't know, it'd be worth just talking about that for a minute, Alex. And how do you?
Yeah, it's funny actually. I remember the first time that I said this, Jason. I think I really need. I think it was you at the time. It wasn't Justin. I said to. I think I really need a tool for splitting topics like into two. Like it's like this topic is overloaded. I want to be able to split it there. I remember you were like super busy at the time. I was like, well, I really hope that this is worth it, because this is going to take me like all weekend to do. And I must have used the split tool, I reckon, like 500 times. It's hard for me to say, because that is the solution to so many ills. Just break this damn thing into two topics. They don't have to do Euler's method, one step, multiple steps on the same day in the same lesson. Let them do one iteration first, split the topic. Multiple iterations can be once they've demonstrated mastery of that, and you sort of have sat in their brain for a day or two, then they're ready. So that is that's been incredible. That is like a savior, because like I said, we spend a lot of time looking at data, like student performance data, and we can see exactly where students are struggling. And like you say, it's often. You just kind of have to use your experience as an educator to understand, well, what's the most likely problem here? They're getting confused because the diagram doesn't work. But often it's just trying to do a little bit too much in an individual topic. Just split it. Everyone's happy usually.
If you break it down small enough, it's like you can explain anything. If you break it small enough, into small enough step, it's usually trying to do too much. It's usually they're trying to take too big of a jump, and then people just fall off. It's like, rather than stairs, I used to think of it as like rocks placed across like a creek or something. And it's like, okay, well, if they're 3 inches apart, then grandma can, wherever you walk, grandma can do it. If it's like 8 inches, it's like, well, my mom and dad can do it. Well, okay, now it's 1.5 feet. It's like, well, I can do it and stuff. But now it's getting to the point where it's like, well, my son can do it. And it's just like 3 feet, and you're like, and it's like, that's what happens. It's like, well, only super gifted, brilliant people can do it. It's like, because the pedagogy is so bad and the jumps are so big, you need someone who can do a standing broad jump of 9 feet to make it, right? Otherwise they're landing in the water. And it's like, okay, rather than writing textbooks that have these 6 and 8 and 10 feet jumps every 2 or 3 pages, and it takes them with incredible athletic ability, or incredible mathematical aptitude to make those jumps. Otherwise, they're just like, man, I don't know. I'm like, I fall into the river and I'm floating down the creek and like, oh, what, this sucks. So, so going back to that split tool. So it's been a long time, so I'm trying to remember, but I remember initially, because this is back, we didn't have many. It was mostly just the school program, and maybe
it could be.
And we would like split live topics.
Yeah,
we would lock a topic. Well, first we didn't even lock topics, and I'd be like, Alex, make sure you don't split it after, because we did at that point we had one beta tester, one person who used to be in the school program, and she had moved, her family moved away, and the dad is like, what am I going to do, Jason? They don't teach calculus in 8th grade. I need to math cat. So we had them using the system, and she was like on the East Coast, and I was like, okay, come 8:30, 9 a.m. Eastern time, because sometimes she'd do it in the morning before she would go to school or something. And I was like, you can't be splitting topics. You got to have it done and split by that time, because you're in the UK, so you only had so many hours. And our students in California are doing math up until as late as 11, sometimes midnight Pacific time. And so you had this relatively narrow window in which case you had to do it. And you were kind of stressed by that, right? You're like, right? I remember that being a stressful thing for you.
I mean, obviously, there's times when things are extremely raw and things can break. It's a stressful experience to know that you've done something which has caused some kind of break, and that happened in I mean, it's much rarer now, but but yeah, obviously in those very, very early days, yeah, it is kind of a stressful thing. Like, oh, if I do this, is anything?
Yeah, we were just kind of flying by the seat of our pants back then with the like, oh, it doesn't look like any students are working on it. Okay, you can do it, but have it done quickly. So it's like that only. I mean, that works when you have like just a handful of students, right? But just eventually, you just get into a state where like there's never a break. It's like you're the city planner, right? And now there's never a break in traffic. There's traffic at all hours. There's like and
we're like every country now in the world now, so
yeah, right, exactly. And so it's like we really there's a lot of stuff that has to happen behind the scenes now, where it's like, okay, we lock a topic, well, you clone a topic, get it all prepped for the switch, and then we're like, okay, it's ready to switch, we lock it really quickly, do a little nice switch onto the new topic, swap everything out, and then unlock it.
Well, it went through a progression. It went through progression. Initially, there was no locking. Like a student could literally click on it, and you were like, hurry, get it done. We were like, make sure you have it done by so. And then Justin and I worked on a thing where you could lock it. Like if a student was using, or they tried to submit an answer and was locked, it'd be like, this is under construction, sorry. And so the student would be like, so worst case, I mean, we tried to avoid that too, but you would lock it, and then you would do the surgery you needed to do, whether it was splitting or adding natural knowledge points or moving questions around or whatever, and then unlock it. And then we'd have the students lesson or whatever would update it as necessary. But then we're like, that was fairly limiting and stressful. And then we're like, okay, I remember Justin and I sitting around thinking like, okay, how are we going to do this? And we're like, all right, I think what we need to do is we got to clone this sucker, clone everything, the question, the knowledge points, all the related records to this topic, so that you can do whatever the hell you want. And then Justin built a whole suite of tools, command line tools that you use, that you would like clone it, and then you do all the stuff you want to do, and the team could work on it and do all the stuff they wanted, and then you would build some tools where would then, I don't know what's it called, what's that? You would get a knife switch, would just insert it in, it would replace it, right?
Yep. That's right. Yeah, I'd do everything really fast. Right, because the issue that we encountered with just locking is like, okay, well, in theory, like, okay, in theory it's fine as long as you get it back up like relatively quickly in the same day or something. But once you get enough students, you get to a point where it's like, well, we have 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 students who need that topic to make any progress in their course. Like they're bottlenecked. And they're bottlenecked. We're
going to get emails. We're going to get emails from
exactly
teachers, from parents. Right. Sandy's going to be like, "What is going on? I'm getting all these emails." You know.
Yeah, right. So now we're at a stage where every topic is needed by every student. All like at any moment in time, there's enough students needing every single access to any single topic that we can't take anything offline for even a couple hours. So so that's how the knife switch tool came into being. Or it's just
well, I think that was some of the very first command line tools that you built for Alex, right? And now this like hundreds of command line tools or something. Each one is like a lot of, it's like a Unix
there's
program that has all these options. Like Alex has this huge toolbox.
Well, I think it started out actually the first command line tools that I built were validations to make sure just that things are all set correctly.
Whatever he did didn't break anything.
Stuff like that. And then knife switch came after that. But we've got hundreds of command line tools, and actually we've even got like maybe like 100 validations that run periodically every so often to make sure the system is in a stable state. And each one of those is a command line tool. If there are any issues, it'll spit out the description of the issue and stuff. And so I've got a validator that goes through, runs those, collects the output, pastes them to Slack so it can notify us if there's any issues.
I mean, that stuff we don't have too many problems these days with knowledge graph, any of these things, right? I mean, this stuff is pretty...
No, but we used to. Alex, do you remember how stressful it was to tweak the prerequisites and worry about introducing a cycle or just some kind of invalid graph connectivity that then the model just falls over and dies?
That was the worst. Yeah, cycles were the worst. And it did happen a few times. I make some kind of change, and then all of a sudden we start getting complaints. There's no validation. There's no like validation tool that's kind of spitting stuff out. It's just stuff isn't working. It's like, we think there's a cycle in the graph. What's going to happen? You know, what's going on? So I had to kind of like retrace my steps. Oh, okay. I think it might be there. So go back and tweak the prerequisites. Is all fine. But that was extremely stressful because I remember exactly what you did to.
It's like playing Russian roulette knowledge graph edition. And you just do it enough times and like something breaks and like it's the whole thing. And so now we got every single graph change that you put in, it gets validated to make sure that it can go that there's no mistakes being introduced into the knowledge graph unintentionally. And I've even got like a self-healing, self-repair in the model so that if there are any issues, it does its best to try to keep on functioning despite
right. Well, first of all, one thing I wanted to say is, for people who don't know what a cycle is, it's like A is a prerequisite of B, B is a prerequisite of C, C is a prerequisite of D, and then D is a prerequisite of A again. Like it is so you can have, that's a cycle in a graph. I would call an acyclic directed graph. It's when people think of graph, it's not like a graph like I'm graphing a line. It's a thing of nodes and edges, so things all connected to the knowledge graph.
Yeah, it's a connect the dots sort of thing, right? Exactly. And so it's like the stepping stones, right? It's like the stepping stones somehow go in a circle, and you're like, wait, I'm supposed to be crossing this river. Why are the stones going in a circle? Obviously, it's not what we intend to do. But when you got so many, like when you got thousands of topics and tens of thousands of prerequisite edges, it's easy to sometimes just type one number in wrong, and now you've got a prerequisite.
Easy. I mean, we're human.
Pointing to the wrong topic.
We make mistakes, right? Alex types in.
Exactly.
Oh, it's 1, 2, 3. It's topic ID 1375, and he accidentally types 137, and they didn't get the 5.
So gotta catch that. You gotta have automated catches of those things because it's just there's some amount of human error that's just you can't avoid it in the aggregate. But and the cycle, that's just one example of an invalid graph connectivity. There's actually like maybe 4 or 5 different types of these things. There's gaps between courses. There's a number of things.
Topics there's topics where you could have like, here's a course of 200 topics, and there's a topic that's a prerequisite that sits in between 2 topics that's not in the course.
Yeah.
Right. It's
exactly
like that.
Yeah. It's like there's an intermediate stepping stone that is not included in the course.
Not in Algebra 1. It's in geometry. Like, wait, what the, and that's stuff is easy to do sometimes, I mean, or like back in the day before we had all this tooling. Yeah.